Hello,
Hello.
this is Joyce Dickerson, and the audio it's not my fault. I was here at 3:30 to call this meeting to order. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I will call the Richland County Administration and Finance Committee to order. I will ask the clerk to call the roll to make sure. Hello?
Yes, ma'am. One second, Ms. Dickerson. Hold on a second, please.
Okay.
Okay, roll call, Ms. Dickerson,
I'm present.
Malinowski, McBride,
Present.
Myers.
Present, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, ma'am. I can hear you.
Thank
And
you.
Mr. Walker?
Present.
Miss Kim, it is determined that we do have a quorum for the A&F committee. And therefore, the item number 2 is the approval of the minutes for the February 25th meeting. I will entertain a motion on that item, please.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Yes, ma'am.
Probably second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by letting the roll be called by our clerk, Ms. Williams. Will you call the roll, please?
Yes, ma'am. Malinowski, Dickerson,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Myers.
Yes.
It passes.
The motion passes. The next item will be item number 3, the approval of the agenda. I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved, Madam
Are there
Chair.
any changes or updates?
I'll second it.
Probably moved in second. Mr. Brown or anyone, do you have any discussion on this item? Here, in favor signify by letting the clerk call the roll to get the agenda approved. Ms. Roberts?
Malinowski, Dickerson,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Myers. Passes.
Thank you. The next item will be items for action, and we have
Yes.
a few. So the very first item for action will be item 4A, bond court consolidation, City of Columbia and Richland County. Information you'll find on page 11 through 24. I will entertain a motion on this item for discussion.
So moved for discussion.
Okay,
Second.
probably moved in second. Discussion? I'm kind of new to, so the first hand I have up, I believe, whose hand is up? I can't tell whose hand is up for discussion. Mr. Walker? Did you want to be recognized?
No, ma'am, that's not me.
Okay. Who have their hand up to be recognized on item 4A for discussion, the consolidation of the bond court? If
I
no,
agree, Ms. Dickerson. This is Delia Myers.
okay, Ms. Myers, I can't really tell. Okay, you recognize.
Just a few questions to the staff on this consolidation. First of all, who is recommending this consolidation? What real efficiencies will the county realize? And when we consolidate it, what savings can you all quantify for the county?
I see Judge Edmonds on.
Yes, Tom Edmond, Chief Summary Court Judge, but I'm gonna defer to Judge Coble. Judge Coble has the information on this. I'm defer to Judge Coble to talk about this. He's the Associate Chief Judge.
Councilwoman and Chairman, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. As to Councilwoman Myers, the question about, first off with efficiency, we currently run the 24/7 bond court, and we handle obviously all of Richland County Sheriff's Department bonds, people who are arrested, as well as other municipalities, including Forest Acres, Irmo, such as that. So the only municipality we do not handle is Columbia. So we have to have two separate courtrooms, two separate judges, separate paperwork, separate proceedings that Alvin S. Glenn and Director Myers have to handle for each bond setting with the city and county. So by having the one procedure, the one process, it makes it much more efficient to be able to do it in a one streamlined manner, so that whether it's victim services, the solicitor's office, or the public defender's office, there's one bond court being set by one agency, which would be the Richland County magistrates. So it would definitely help with the efficiency, whether it's victim services or law enforcement or defense attorney side. As to the quantifiable numbers when it comes to monetary savings, that's where and obviously this is above our pay grade, but the cost where we had in the agenda briefing document about what the city would pay. We put some numbers together about what the city would pay to make up for the cost to the county. That includes the judge's salary and staff salary, and as well as miscellaneous items to make it more efficient, to make up for all the costs that we would entail for that. So as the quantifiable numbers, they're in that briefing document.
Right.
But yes, ma'am.
I just said, go ahead. I'm looking at the document.
Yes, ma'am. So ultimately, that would be, again, like I said, above my pay grade when it comes to negotiations and contracts with the numbers and dollar figures. But the dollar figures and numbers that Judge Edmond and I put together kind of reflect an idea of what we're looking at, what it costs us currently to set an individual bond, and what the city, it would cost them on approximately how many arrestees and defendants they set bond per year, to give it an estimate. Cost per defendant would seem to be the most efficient and easy way to see what the cost would be, if that makes sense.
Ms. Myers, does that answer your question?
Yes, ma'am, kind of. I guess my concern, I think, first of all, I think that I would love to see Director Myers and the Alvin S. Glenn team have one process rather than two, because I do think that the streamlining of it and making it all consistent would help them and would make it sort of more efficient at the detention center. My questions, though, go to the things that we see now at the detention center, where the cost of actually maintaining a detainee for Richland County is greater than what we are reimbursed by municipalities. And so I'm concerned, not that this isn't a good idea, I think it is a good idea, but I'm concerned that we quantify the numbers and that we don't just agree based on back of the napkin analyses of what the actual cost is, that there is some actual cost that our finance department can tell us is something that we can bank on, so that the taxpayers are obviously made whole on us doing this. And then the second thing I'd be concerned with is on the liability side of it. There are constitutional issues with regard to how quickly people get access to a judge once they're brought in. Bond court is, these are detainees who haven't been adjudicated guilty of anything. So I'd just like to be sure that our legal department is also recommending this and has come forward to say that this method is the one that they would support. So I'd like to also hear from them. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. So is Mr. Smith on the line?
I am, Madam
Mr.
Chair.
Smith, I'd like to hear from you on this item, please.
Okay. There was a question, and Brad, are you on?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Apparently, as I understand it, the city and some county representatives met along with the magistrates a couple of months ago to discuss this issue. And as I understand it, there was an issue that came up regarding whether or not the Supreme Court had issued some edit, if you will, to the city about just what Ms. Myers talked about their ability to hold bond hearings within the required time, and whether or not they were doing that. And apparently, there was something that was issued from the Supreme Court against the city, as I understand it, which we don't understand at this point what that was and what issue the city's bond court had that required the Supreme Court to intervene to address. So in terms of just the liability question of that falling on the county as it relates to just the operational side, apparently, as I understand it, there was something that came out of that meeting which suggested that there was something already going on, which I don't know that we fully got an understanding of. And my concern is if we consolidate this without that issue already having been resolved, that we assume whatever that is. And as I understand it, and Brad can probably speak better to this than I can because I wasn't at the meeting, either here or Mr. Brown, we didn't get any clarity from the city about what it was that required the Supreme Court to intervene to address their issues as it relates to their bonds.
Mhm. Further discussion from anyone?
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am. Ms. McBride, you recognized.
I'm sorry, I can't raise my hand because I'm on the telephone, so
I see.
I don't
that's-
intend to. Okay, all right, good. I have, I think the idea sounds awesome, but I too am concerned about the liability issues and for us having good cost projections. And so at this point, we may need to defer this until we get the additional information, or we would, I would move that we I move that we defer until we get additional information.
Can I get a second on that? Otherwise, I second it.
Yeah, I'll second it.
Okay, I will, Ms. Myers, I will let you second it, okay?
Can I ask a question since once we second it, we can't?
Well,
Deferral's non-debatable.
it's for deferral, so, you know, deferral is non-debatable.
Can I just ask a question quickly?
Yeah, I will let you ask a question.
Clarification.
Yes, for
Yes,
clarification.
ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Representative. Is this time sensitive?
I don't think so, because I read that Supreme Court thing and I don't have understanding. I'm not, I tell you all the time, I don't have the JD, so I didn't really understand it. And I agree with Mr. We probably have some liability with this until we get further information. So, we
Okay.
just defer it.
Can I ask a question of clarification, Madam Chair?
Who is that? Mr. Livingston, you may?
Yes, yeah, just to answer to the question that Ms. Myers asked, and I didn't hear an answer in terms of whether or not it was an urgent matter we could deal with.
Time sensitive.
Yes.
Is this time sensitive,
Someone
Mr.
answer that
Cole?
question?
I believe Judge Edmond was,
I asked Judge, Mr. Coble, would he answer that question for me? please?
Thank you.
yes, ma'am. The only time sensitive is because we are currently with this pandemic. It would be, we've had this discussions multiple times already. And so while it's not an urgent matter, it's just something that we would, I guess, need to address sooner rather than later, just because of with the pandemic, bond court has been kind of crunched with our new hearings and our new schedules.
Well, out of respect to everyone, this motion was, I understand what you're saying, but the motion was for defer, it was properly moved in second. So it's the deferral is non-debatable. So I will call for everyone to vote on this item for deferral.
Madam Chair, can I ask one more clarifying question?
Clarifying question.
Are we deferring to the next meeting, or are we
I
deferring?
would- I would say-
To the next meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, defer it to the next meeting. I won't entertain any further discussion on this item. On this item, please signify, Ms. Roberts, would you please call the roll?
Malinowski,
Yes.
Dickerson,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Myers?
Yes.
It passes.
Thank you. Thank you so very much, Judge Edmonds and Mr. Cole. Next item, this item will be forwarded to the next council meeting. Next item will be for the airport property used for promotional events. The information you will find on page 25 and 26. I will entertain a motion on this item.
Madam Chair, I move to approve.
I have a motion to approve. Do I hear a second? Second for discussion. Okay.
I seconded it, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Myers. Ms. Roberts, note that Ms. Myers seconded.
Yes,
Discussion.
ma'am.
Any discussion?
And Madam Chair, Bill Malinowski.
Yes, Mr. Malinowski, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First off, Mr. Smith, if you can hear me, whatever you're doing there with your grading something on your phone, we can hear it. Also, in our agenda, it says that this has been endorsed favorably by the Airport Commission in their July of 19 meeting. And it was originally,
Somebody need to mute their phone.
it was originally in ANF on February 25th. And I'm just, and of course, I think that's one that got postponed then. But I'm just wondering why it never came to us earlier. But is legal okay with this? Number one. And number two, is risk management okay with this?
Ms. Dickerson, I can answer those questions.
Okay, Dr. Thompson, you're recognized.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Malinowski, legal is aware of this. In fact, legal developed the hold harmless agreement, and risk management is very well of this as they set the coverage rates for the insurance coverage that the event planner and the host must have to have this event.
All right. On page 26 of our agenda, it says an attachment is the hold harmless agreement template. I don't have it in the agenda that was provided to me, so I don't know if I would agree with it, disagree with it, have any other questions on it. Does anyone else have that?
Excuse me, Madam Chair, this is Chris Eversman, Airport General Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Everson, you're recognized.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Malinowski, I don't know why that hold harmless agreement did not make it into the packet. It had been provided before when it was on the February agenda. And again, if an agenda was provided for the March meeting, which I think was canceled as the public health emergency was emerging, it was in that. It can easily be provided in advance of full consideration by the full council. And as Dr. Thompson has indicated, it was developed and with working with our legal and risk management departments.
Okay, if we can get that by the time it gets to council, but also the one item I noticed that the part of it, I think what these people have to do, it says that the area will be restored to the way it looked prior to them using it, and that disposal of any of the trash and all, but there's nothing listed, and maybe it's in the hold harmless, there's nothing listed to say what happens if they don't do that. I think we need some type of a penalty in there. So I'd like to see that put in there. And my other question would be for legal. That is, can Richland County allow use of taxpayer property for a fundraising event, whether it's a nonprofit group or not? Is that allowable?
Mr. Malinowski, this is Larry Smith, and I.
You recognize Mr. Smith.
Okay, I'm going to go back because I'm not. This matter has been either to committee or at council at various stages, but with different events being proposed. So I am not aware that the council has generally agreed upon the use of the airport for events. I think at one point, the first event that I remember was perhaps a sleepover, which was being proposed, and the property was being proposed to be used for a sleepover at that time. And as I recall, the matter came either through committee or to council, and then that is when we did work, just in case council wanted to approve the airport for that event. We did come up with the template hold harmless agreement. But I don't know whether the council as a body has said, yes, we agree to use Owens Field, Hamilton Field for private events. So that's the first issue. The second issue is, in the write-up, I did not see when this particular event was being proposed to occur. And of course, right now, we've got a pandemic going on, so I don't know that, any county property would be appropriate to be used for an event such as this at this point. But I note that in the write-up, it did not give a date for the event. So I would just bring that to y'all's attention. I think that's important. If someone is thinking about having an event in the near future, and I don't know the answer to that, because the write-up didn't say when the event was planned for. In terms of your question, in terms of whether or not the property itself can be used as a fundraising, for fundraising purposes, Mr. Malinowski, I'm not aware of anything at this point that would prohibit that. Obviously, we would have to, the council as a body probably needs to decide whether or not this property is going to be used, are you going to allow it to be leased or used or by private entities? And then the other question that I think that Chris and I talked about was the issue of security for those events, who's going to provide that, and I'm not sure that was ever determined.
Madam Chairman, if I may provide a little
Yes,
bit more
Mr.
information.
Everson, you're recognized.
Thank you, ma'am. Just on a couple of things, this issue has been around a while. The issue of the camping event was withdrawn, and the EAA chapter, Palmetto Sport Aviation, does not desire to pursue that any further. So I would just ask that we set that aside and not allow any controversy or questions associated with that be attached to this. It's a totally separate event. In the hold harmless agreement, there was a date identified of April 18th, excuse me. Obviously, that has come and gone, and obviously that date was formulated a ways back, well before the public health emergency emerged. We would never, I would just say going forward, and in my conversations with the organization, they actually had requested that we go to an unspecified date in the future, probably during fall of 2020. That would be mutually agreeable to both parties. Obviously, even if we got the authorization, we would never agree to, schedule an event or make the property available if there was an ongoing public health, if the public health emergency persisted. So just want to make that statement and make sure that that is understood by all. Also, finally, the property in question is actually outside, it's airport property, but it is outside of the perimeter fence. So the security concerns, if you will, are not as maybe rigid or as great a concern as they might be were it within the perimeter of the airport. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion on this item?
Because I still have the floor.
Just one, sorry.
Okay, Mr. Malinowski.
Yeah, one other thing in the write-up, it indicated that the paved parking lot would be used for spectators. Now, I'm guessing that's what you're referring to, Mr. Eversman, is this is a parking lot outside of the fenced-in area. But if the paved parking lot is used for spectators, where do all these other people go where they said that they were going to have show cars, vendors, and food trucks?
Yes, sir. There is along the frontage of Jim Hamilton Boulevard. We have a pretty sizable paved parking lot that serves the maintenance hangar. And beside that, we have an undeveloped open grass lot. So that would be where they would be setting up and having the event.
So therefore, if they're using a grass lot and we've had rain prior to that and it's rather soft, there could be damage to the grassy area. They would have to put it back the way it was according to the hold harmless, correct?
Yes, sir, that is correct. Obviously, we would, we would not go forward if the conditions were not right.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, does anyone have any further questions on this?
Ms. Dickerson, it's just a comment.
Yes, ma'am, Ms. Myers, you are recognized.
With the COVID-19, Mr. Smith, are we putting clauses in these agreements so that we require anyone using our facilities to obey all of the recommendations for social distancing and all the other things just to protect the county?
I'm sorry, Ms. Myers, I didn't hear all of what you said. I'm sorry, I was trying to unmute my phone.
That's okay. Do our agreements have a clause that requires folks to obey most current guidance regarding COVID-19 and physical distancing, so that if this event happens, at whatever time it happens, we've made it clear that we expect all that guidance to be followed on our premises or they can't be used?
Yeah, so we have not done anything to the actual hold harmless document at this point related to this particular pandemic. But obviously, to the extent that the council believes it's appropriate to go forward with this event or any event during this pandemic, then we would include some language in there to address that issue.
Does that answer your question, Ms. Myers?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay.
This is Brad from legal. Can I just add something to that?
Yes, Mr. Brad, you can.
Yeah, we really want to think that through because we haven't had occasion to have any county function since this started going on. But, you know, one of the things that came up, some other counties are talking about allowing folks back into their building. And the question came up, well, should we require them to wear a mask? Well, I mean, think about that. You know, is the county going to provide a mask for everybody who comes through the door? What if you don't have one? What if you can't afford one? What if, you know, if we put a requirement in there and we somehow mess it up, now we've got exposure because we didn't put an adequate mask and procedures in place. I mean, there's a lot that would have to be thought through if you're going to actually hold some county event or event on county property while there's still orders in place about the distancing. And the last thing I would say is, and this is a policy decision, but if the county is, you know, not interested in using any of its property for fundraising, we need to seriously rethink the entire relationship with the United Way. And that's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And Madam
Mr.
Chairman, not to prolong things, but I think I speak for the Airport Commission. We are not going to move forward with this until, you know, the situation, the public health emergency has abated.
Okay. All right. Is there any further discussion on this item? Hearing none, I will ask for the roll to be called. Ms. Roberts, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, ma'am. Malinowski.
Yeah, well, after all the discussion, can you restate the motion again, please?
Okay, the motion is to have the staff make sure that no events will take place during the coronavirus and that we adhere to all of the instructions per the coronavirus distancing, et cetera, and to allow this event to take place when this all happened under those particular guidelines. Now, Mr. Smith will have to probably narrow that down because there are a lot of legalism into that. As staff.
Correct, and we're going to be provided the hold harmless agreement also by Mr. Eversman. when it
Yeah, I
gets-
think that's a part of it to be have that included in the motion.
Right, and Mr. Smith brought up some legal questions that I think we should also have by the time it gets there. Thank you.
Okay, all right, okay. All right, Ms. Roberts, please call the roll.
Malinowski,
Yes.
Dickerson,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes.
passes.
Okay, thank you so very much. Next item will be 4C, past due amount in car body worn cameras and digital evidence program. That information you'll find on page 27 through 29. I will entertain a motion on this particular item on 4C.
Move to approve the payment of those amounts, Madam Chair.
Second.
Have a motion and a second in the discussion.
Madam Chair, Bill Malinowski.
Mr. Malinowski, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The big question I have, it says that we were talking about in our briefing that the Office of Budget and Grants Management for the county was unaware that these items were being leased. They were under the impression they had been purchased back when they were considered capital assets, and it was approved by council. Do we have any info from back then in those meetings that was provided so that we can see what funds were approved for, if they were approved for purchase or for lease?
Staff, do you have any help with me on this particular item? I didn't ask that question, so I need some clarity on that, please.
Chairwoman Dickerson, I'm going to ask Chief Calvin if he's on the call. I see him, if Chief Calvin could provide some context.
This program was presented to council. Actually, this is the in-car camera portion of this program, and this program was presented to council as a contract approval. And in the contract, it clearly states back when we first did this in 2017 that these items were as they are now. 70-80% of it is a service agreement that we are paying to retain an evidentiary retention program. So the majority of what we're paying for is to retain evidence, which is required by law. Nothing has changed since we implemented the program for in-cars 8 years ago. Nothing has changed since we implemented the program for body cameras 3 years ago. So everything has been submitted appropriately by the sheriff's office, again, consecutively over the last 8 years, every budget year for this program.
And that's where I'm wondering what happened that the budgeting isn't there now for it.
I can't answer that, Mr. Malinowski.
Mr. Brown, can you help us with that? And I'm having some.
Yes, ma'am. Scrolling mine, but I'm going to have Mr. Hayes trying to provide some assistance with that because this particular matter has been one that has been a little confusing for a couple of us. So we can get it cleared up today. Mr. Hayes?
Yeah, Chairwoman Dickinson, James Hayes here. When you all approved this item, apparently under the previous administrator, when they built Biennium Budget 1, there were no funds allocated for that. So when I took over as budget director and we had those payments, we actually had to go through the budget to try to find funds. There was never any funds linked with this project when the previous administration built Biennium Budget 1. So even though you all approved this in 17, when they took it to you all, there was no funding, so it's actually allocated and linked with it, ma'am.
So
at this point, Ms. Dickerson, what we need is, this is, as Chief Cowan mentioned, this is a payment for a service that needs to be paid. And at this point, we're asking for approval, which will allow Mr. Hayes to do the appropriate budget amendment to account for these dollars. So that's kind of the ask right now.
Okay, all right. So that's what I'm seeing from staff recommendation. Do I will entertain a motion on this item.
So
It's
moved.
already been moved and seconded.
It's properly moved and second. That was the second by Mr. Walker, I believe.
That's correct.
Okay, probably moved and second. Any further discussion on this item? Hearing none, all in favor, I ask Ms. Roberts to call the roll, please. Ms. Roberts?
Malinowski,
Yes.
Dickerson,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Myers.
Yes.
It passes.
Thank you so very much. Next item will be 4D, intergovernmental agreement with municipal judge, town of Arcadia Lakes. And that information is on page 30 through 36. I hope you had a chance to review it. I will entertain a motion on this item for discussion.
So moved, Madam Chair.
I hear a second.
Second.
It's properly moved in second. Discussion on item 4C.
Madam Chair, Bill Malinowski.
Yes, Mr. Malinowski, you're recognized.
Thank you. I'd just like to know if legal has reviewed this and is fine with it.
Mr. Smith? Mr. Smith or Brad? Hello?
Chair, my understanding is if in the briefing document, we have sent this through the routing process. Legal did review this information. So if they're not able to answer right now, based on our routing process, the legal did review this information.
Okay, and so the recommendation is,
I'm sorry, I had to step out for a moment. What was the question?
wanted to know whether or not you had reviewed the agreement and on 4D for the intergovernmental agreement.
Yeah, that was, I didn't personally, but that one, if the briefing documents got the review on it, it's probably done by Ms. McLean from our office.
It was.
Okay, it was. Okay, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by, let Ms. Roberts call the roll. Ms. Roberts, would you please call the roll on item 4D?
Malinowski,
Yes.
Dickerson,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Myers.
Yes.
Passes.
Thank you. Next item will be for East South Carolina Department of Transportation Interstate 26 widening project. And that information is on 37 through 57. Yeah, I think 57. Thank you. Entertain a motion on that item. Entertain a motion on item 4E for discussion. Hello.
Madam Chair, I'll move for approval for discussion.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I hear a second? Proper moved in second. Discussion. Discussion on item 4E for the widening of Interstate 26. Information on 37 through 57.
Madam Chair, Bill Malinowski.
Yeah, Mr. Malinowski, you're recognized.
Thank you, ma'am. It says in our briefing document that relocation of all utilities that are in conflict with this proposed expansion by SCDOT must be completed before April 1st, 2020. Well, that's gone by and we're just coming here and discussing it now. And it says that failure to meet the project contract requirements and the construction schedule may result in the utility provider having to bear all relocation costs. So there's where my first question is, are we going to have to bear these costs? Why wasn't this given to us prior to this so there was enough time to get the answers to them?
I want to be sure. I had one of these items moved up and I think this was one of the ones that we had and we did not have a chance to discuss it, and I had staff to put those up to be priorities, and I believe this was one that we did not discuss. Is that correct, Mr. Brown?
That is correct. I had listed all those items as time sensitive, and council decided to end the meeting without taking those items up.
That's right. So this item is before us for action. So I don't know whether there is any legal problems with that. Mr. Smith?
We had another meeting subsequent to that particular meeting where they.
I think that meeting was canceled, Mr. Malinowski.
All right.
Mm-hmm. Any
Either
further,
way.
any, Mr. Smith?
Dixon,
Yes.
can someone from
Yeah, this is
Utilities,
Brad.
Finance just
That's what
explain
I
what
was
the
asking,
cost
Brad,
is?
someone from legal to add or to help me with this particular.
I just want to understand what the county would be responsible for paying.
Yeah, that's what we were trying to find out, Ms. Myers.
All right, so the question is, so the April 1st came and went? And that's, so that somehow, you're saying under the agreement that shifts responsibility?
Yeah, we're trying to figure out what our responsibility will be at this particular point in time.
You know, what provision, what page is that, Mr. Malinowski?
That is on page 38 of our agenda.
38.
It is the line immediately above the start of that last paragraph. It says failure to meet the project contract requirements. I know it says may result, but I think we need to make sure it won't result.
Brad, that's 38. That's on page 38.
Yeah, so it says may result in the utility provider having to bear the relocation costs. Okay. All right, yeah, I got to see where that is in the actual agreement, because that's just the summary of it.
So,
well, while Brad's looking at that, Madam Chair, if someone could answer, and I guess it would be maybe the administrator, if he signed this MOA, Memorandum of Agreement, right at the very top when it said it was made this 9th day of January, and then it was changed to the 24th day of February. Why was the change implemented? And did
So, Mr. Malinowski, I'm sorry, go ahead, sir, I apologize.
And then did council approve this memorandum of agreement, or is that what we're doing now?
That's what we're attempting to do now. It is my understanding that when this project was beginning to be underway, that the Department of Transportation reached out to Richland County and said that there was a formula that exists that talks about utilities that are in their right of way that need to be moved and how that would be paid. The individual that was working with Richland County said that they were going to try to get all of the costs included so that, in fact, Richland County would not have to expend dollars, and that the memorandum they were working on was to update that information. Again, some of the information you are addressing is a little bit older because there was a big rush and a push for them to move forward with their project, and we just needed to get the MOU executed, but we did not do that. So I don't know that they would turn around and say, Richland County, we're still not going to take care of those expenses. I think we should continue to move forward to allow them to move forward with their process. But that's why there were changes, because everything was happening rapidly, and they were trying to include our cost and pay for it, which would benefit us.
Okay, and Brad, I should have probably mentioned to you, page 41 of our agenda, number 5, it may be what you're looking for.
Yeah. Yeah, but I don't see any deadline in there. I mean, I don't see where the April 1st date's coming into play.
I didn't see any problems, but you know, here again, I may have missed something, but I didn't see any problems with that. Does Mr. Malinowski, do you have any further questions on this?
Well, if we're changing this memorandum of agreement in the very opening line from made the 9th day of January to the 24th day of February, I would think that our administrator Brown would also have to change the date of his signature on page 45, wouldn't he?
Yeah, you could initial by the change on the first page, initial and date there as well.
Yeah, I thought that was simple. If there's no further, does that answer Your question, Mr. Malinowski?
Well, it kind of answers the question. How did we pick the company that we're awarding this contract to, Joel Woods and Associates?
You want to have John?
Engineering.
Ms. Dickerson, John Thompson here. If I can get Johnny Hussein to address Mr. Malinowski's question.
Yeah, the engineering is one and the construction is another.
Johnny?
Okay, if he's not on, let me try to address this for you. So it's my understanding that Richland County, again, because our utility, okay, thank you, Johnny. Go ahead, sir.
Sir, I was muted. I did not know. I'm sorry. Mr. Malinowski, the engineering company was selected because they are already our provider. They were working on a project at this location, and we just made them take over the rest of it. We had a crossing project under 26 that he was working on, and the SCDOT was already working with him on that. So we just expanded it. They were also working on a project on Highway 176. So both of them made, Cedric made the decision that they will go ahead and approve him.
And we're not paying for it, DOT, right?
Yes.
DOT is paying for everything, sir. Engineering as well as the design and the construction of it.
Okay, so we don't need to have our procurement come into this.
No, sir. And also they will be inspecting and everything. Our team will be inspecting it to make sure that everything is done per the Richland County specification, but they will be responsible for it.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Is there any further discussion on this item? Hearing none, I will ask Ms. Roberts to please call the roll on this item, please.
Malinowski,
Yes.
Dickerson,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Myers, it passes.
Okay, thank you. The next item will be item.
I'm muted, yes.
Okay, all right, thank you. The next item will be 4F, condemning of property for Southeast Sewer Water Project. And that's on 58 through 60. I will entertain a motion on this item for discussion. Hello?
Move to approve for discussion, Madam Chair.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Second.
Probably moving in second. Discussion? Discussion.
And Madam Chair, Bill Malinowski again.
Mr. Malinowski, you are recognized.
Thank you, ma'am. One question, and that is on page 59 of our agenda where we get the steps utilities took to locate the owner. And it says that the taxes have not been paid. And on the third bullet point, it says that the property in question has been delinquent for 11 years. So if it's not been, taxes not paid for 11 years, why hasn't our, what do they call it? The FLC, the Forfeited Land Commission, why haven't they come in and that property either been placed at auction or taken in by the county?
Mr. Malinowski, I don't have an answer for that.
May I speak, Madam Chair? This is Johnny.
Okay, John, you recognized.
Thank you, ma'am. What I was told is this property is landlocked, and that's the reason that they did not have pursued it further. And also the owner has not been identified as like deceased or something.
Well, I understand that. I read all that, Mr. Johnny, but nonetheless, I've seen our property auctions and I've seen plenty of landlocked land being auctioned at these places. Whether somebody buys it or not is another story. But I'd like the assessor's office to answer why this hasn't been placed up for auction. And I know that if nobody buys the properties that are up for auction for delinquent taxes, it gets reverted back to that Forfeited Land Commission. So I'd like to know why this hasn't taken place in 11 years.
Mr. Malinowski, John Thompson here, we'll get an answer from the treasurer's office regarding why they haven't taken that piece of property back, sir.
Thank you, thank you.
Can you have that for us by the council meeting, Dr. Thompson?
I expect to, ma'am. I'm going to contact that office as soon as I get out of this meeting.
Okay, and if not, then it can be deferred till we get that information. But right now, the motion is to approve. Any further discussion on this item? Hearing none, Ms. Roberts, would you please call the roll?
Malinowski,
Yes.
Dickerson,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Myers.
Yes.
It passes.
Thank you so very much. Next item will be for South Carolina Aeronautics Commission Grant Acceptance Contract Award, and that's on page 61 through 68. I will entertain a motion on that item, please.
Madam Chair, I move to approve.
I have a motion to approve. Do I hear a second?
Second,
It's probably moved and so who's seconded?
Meyer.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Myers. Recognize your voice.
You're welcome.
It's probably moved and seconded. Any discussion on this item? Hearing none, all in favor, Ms. Roberts, would you please call the roll?
Malinowski,
Yes.
Dickerson,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Myers.
Yes.
Passes.
Thank you. Next item will be 4H, request to purchase county property, TMS. And you can see the numbers and it's on page 69 through 158. I will entertain a motion on this item. Item 4H.
Madam Chair, Bill Malinowski.
Mr. Malinowski, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Based on the fact that letter M, as in Mary, of our agenda has to do with a draft policy for acquisition and disposal of county property. And I believe this was property that had come up quite a while ago, and we were in the process of trying to determine how we would acquire and dispose property with some rules. I would make a motion to defer this item until we get those rules in place.
I have a motion to defer. Probably moved in second. Okay, deferral is non-debatable. Ms. Roberts, would you please call the roll?
Yes, ma'am. Malinowski,
Yes.
Dickerson,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Myers.
Yes.
Okay, the
Passes.
motion passes. Next item will be 4J, and that would be budget amendment of first vehicle service refund, and that's on page 159 through 161. I will entertain a motion on that item, please.
Madam Chair, before you entertain that motion, got to get a point of clarification, please.
Yes, sir. Mr. Walker, you may. Point of clarification for Mr. Walker.
The previous item, which was just deferred, could you state or have someone state to when or what meeting that item was deferred, please?
Okay, okay, I apologize. Thank you so very much. I would say that that would be deferred to our next meeting, the next administrative and finance meeting. I think we should have our information by then.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam
Yeah.
Chair, Bill Malinowski.
Yes,
Madam Chair, rather than put a definite date on it, I mean, my motion was until we get the rules in place, and I don't know how much tweaking there may be on the need for these rules that are coming up in front of us. The next committee sounds fine to me, but let's not hold fast to that just in case this doesn't get done.
well, Mr. Malinowski, if we don't have it, then we can, postpone it and refer it to another item, but right now it'll stay that particular way we just did.
Sounds good, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the item we were just on discussion now is the, I believe it's, we on 4I, budget amendment, first vehicle service refunds. That's on page 159 through 161. And we got 5 minutes on this particular a meeting, so I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve, Madam Chair.
Have a motion to approve. Do I hear a second?
Second for discussion.
Second.
Second, properly moved in second. Discussion, Mr. Malinowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Under the recommended action, it says that this would be an amendment to the risk management budget for expenditures directly related to fleet operations only. I'm not understanding why the risk management budget gets the funds that are obtained from the fleet operations budget. Seems like that would have gone into the general fund, and then they'd get it from there.
Mr. Malinowski.
Yeah.
Ms. Dixon, may I answer this, James Hayes?
Yes, sir, Mr. Hayes, you recognize?
Yes, Mr. Malinowski. A couple of years back, the Office of Risk Management had fleet operations reassigned to them. So their budget, the central garage actually budget was combined with fleet management under a previous reorganization. So central garage budget actually was uploaded into into risk management. Excuse me.
That's fine. That answers that. Thank you. And also then all these items that are listed in here on page 161 of our agenda for repairs and improvements to the central garage. It was a while back, I don't recall exactly how far back, but a while, that we received a list of items that needed to be either repaired or improved or built new. And I'm wondering if some of these items listed here weren't included back then. And if they were they not handled?
Mr. Malinowski, this is Brittany Terry, Director of Risk Management.
Yes, ma'am.
These items are not duplicative, so these items are not contained anywhere else. Some of them have been proposed in the past but have not been funded. So these are not duplicates of any current capital improvements list.
Okay, it's probably what I saw, then they'd been proposed previously.
Okay.
And does
Yes, some of
anybody?
them are.
Okay, all right, I'm good for now, thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Roberts, would you please call the roll?
Yes, ma'am. Malinowski,
Yes.
Dickerson,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes.
passes.
Okay, we have 2 minutes. We have 1, 2, 3, 5 items. And I'm looking at a historical marker that was on our agenda for the last time. We have a couple like the Hopkins Magistrates Facility expansion. Is there any way we can have a motion to send these items to council without a recommendation so that we can move them off the out of the committee because they've been here for a while?
Madam Chair, I move to forward all those items to full council without a recommendation.
Do I hear a second?
I second it.
Okay, second. Any discussion? We got 1 minute.
Madam Chair, real quickly, in less than a minute, I'd like to say that is not the purpose of a committee, is to just move items forward to get them out of the committee. They're supposed to be vetted. All this time then needs to be taken when it gets to council. If it's not time sensitive, they should remain here. Thank you.
Okay, well,
Madam Chairwoman,
yes, sir, Mr. Walker, you recognized.
I make a substitute motion to defer items J through N to the next ANF meeting.
I'll
J
second.
through N to the next meeting.
Correct.
That's a substitute motion. All in, do I hear?
Ms. Chair, Madam Chair, just a quick moment. I think,
Yeah.
Mr. Malinowski, you're right. The distinction here is because of COVID-19, we've missed successive meetings. And these items, one of them is a matter that's under construction now.
Right.
These items should have been before the council, but for the pandemic. So you're right, but I think we're in different times.
Maybe
I
a
would just
different
suggest that
time,
we forward them.
Ms. Myers, we may be, but we have not missed successive meetings. We had a meeting in March, a full meeting in March. It was the meeting in February that was abbreviated, and these items were not on that meeting. So we've not missed successive meetings. These are just.
We didn't have and ANF didn't have a meeting in March.
No.
Madam
we
Chair,
did not.
point of order. Point of
Yes,
order,
sir.
Madam Chair.
Yes, sir,
But
Mr. Walker.
there's a motion before you for deferral, which is non-debatable. It's been properly
Non-debatable. Okay, all in favor of deferring these 4 items J through N, please signify by saying aye. Ms. Roberts, please call the roll.
Malinowski,
Yes.
Dickerson,
No.
McBride,
No.
Walker,
Yes.
Myers,
No.
fails.
Okay, at this item, so we'll go
Madam
back.
Chair, our time for the meeting has expired. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
There was an original motion on the floor,
The
sir.
floor, and
There was
I'm
a
not
motion.
gonna, so, all in favor of the motion that's on the floor, please, Ms. Roberts, please call the roll and then I will adjourn.
Madam Chair, get discussion on that motion?
No, we're gonna move on. Ms. Roberts, please call the roll, please.
Malinowski,
I'd like the parliamentarian to weigh in and let us know, since when do we move a motion without discussion?
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
I make a substitute motion that we expand the time of the meeting for 3 minutes to allow Mr. Malinowski his time for discussion
I have
second
a
it.
motion.
on this
I have a
item.
motion second, probably moved in second for 3 minutes, to expand the meeting. Ms. Roberts, would you please call the roll? It's probably moved in second.
Malinowski,
No.
Dickerson,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Walker,
No.
Myers,
Yes.
it passes.
Okay. Mr. Malinowski, you ask your question?
We're gonna take them one at a time. It would take more than 3 minutes. Y'all just go ahead and vote it up or down what you want to do.
Okay. All right, well, the motion pass all J through N through the full to council without any further, without a recommendation from this committee. That was voted on, Ms. Roberts?
No, ma'am.
Ma'am?
No, ma'am.
Okay, all in
Voted.
favor of moving those items, please, Ms. Roberts, please call the roll to move those items.
Malinowski.
Madam Chair, point
Yes,
of
sir.
order.
Yes, sir. Mr. Walker, you recognized.
Has appropriate discussion been allowed for on the motion that's on the table? I just have
asked
one
for-
question.
I asked for it and nobody said anything.
I would like to ask a question if you would allow.
Yes, sir, you will.
Are
We got-
all 5 of these items so time sensitive that they all must be passed through without a recommendation of this council? Or could we jointly agree that 1 or 2 of them are of such precedent that they need that treatment and not push all 5? And that's a question. I don't know the answer to
Okay,
that.
Mr. Walker, I asked you one question. Can you tell me which ones you want to put, or can staff, which ones are time sensitive? I think we got a minute on this.
Well, I think
Can
Ms. Myers
staff hurry
indicated
up?
something was actually under construction right now. I'm just curious
Yes.
which one that is.
The House of Magistrate is under construction currently.
Right.
And
Ms. Chair?
We have a
Yes.
motion on. We've got a few minutes, Ms.
I thought
We got 1 minute. We got 1
We
minute.
need to vote.
I'd like for J to be moved forward, Madam Chair. That's just a historic marker that's important, I think, trying to get done.
Yes, I know.
what
that.
item, sir?
Item J, that's just simply asking for approval of a historic marker.
Yeah,
Okay.
We move it.
okay.
Madam,
So I mean, the only one that probably need a little further discussion will be on the replacement building on the stormwater, but we can discuss that in the next meeting. So the motion on the floor is for.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
Madam
ma'am.
Chair, I would amend my motion slightly to take the one item that you suggested requires committee attention off of the list to move forward without.
Okay, so that would be K. So that would be J, I, M, and N. That would be the motion to forward those items to the full council without a recommendation, excluding.
It doesn't have a second.
All right.
McBride, are you seconding my amended motion?
Ms. McBride, you second the amended motion?
should we just remove K?
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
I don't think we.
Probably moved in second. Ms. Roberts, would you please call the roll? We got 30 seconds.
Malinowski,
No.
Dickerson,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Walker,
No.
Myers,
Yes.
Passes.
Okay, I have a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Madam Chair. I second it.
Probably moved and seconded. This meeting is now adjourned. Thank you so
We
very.
can take a vote. We can take a vote.
We did. We just called a roll.
That was for the motion before that, not to adjourn.
Well, we'll take a motion to it. All in favor of adjournment by Ms. Roberts, please call the roll.
Malinowski,
No.
Dickerson,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Myers. It passes.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Have a great day.